Your grand rising, everybody. How you doing? Welcome to Deconstructing Christianity. I am your coach, your host, your guide, Coach Renz, and tonight we're going to be just talking about why women need freedom from religion. We get started about 5 minutes into the show, so if you find us for the first time and you don't want to hear the prelims, just go ahead and jump to the 5-minute mark. Just as a reminder, we are having our meet and greet October 31st through November 2nd in San Antonio, Texas. Look forward to meeting you guys there. Go to the link in bio to be able to reserve your room. That is the only thing that you have to do. There's no tickets or anything like that to be sold. So look forward to it. As we get started, if you are a member of YouTube, thank you very much for your support. A subscription holder on Facebook, thank you for your support. If you support the by one-time donations through Cash App, thank you for your support in all the many ways that people support the channel. And one of the most important ways is thank you for the sharing of all the videos that we post throughout the day and throughout the week. There will be a scheduling change starting next week. The lives will have to change to a 12 noon live Eastern Standard Time. So starting next week, lives will be at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time, as my evening schedule has changed. So we're going to have to do lives at 12 noon instead of our 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I forgot to cut my cigar, but it's all right. I'm going to do a punch today. What's up, Donald? How you doing? If you didn't see the videos that I published earlier today, oftentimes I will publish a video that has something to do with, if not a direct connection to the subject matter. There was a video I posted today that has something to do with tonight's show about how Christianity pretty much is destroying relationships. Basically is the idea here. What up, Dwayne? How you doing? Free mind, haven't seen you in a minute. Got our cigar ready. We put some fuel in these torches up here. Good to go, good to go, good to go. This Bahia cigar is a really good cigar. Got my coffee, ready to talk. So how's everybody doing on this glorious Wednesday? And as I said, next week lives will start being at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. So I hope you guys are able to make that a little lunchtime chat. Lunchtime, but that was the original way. When I first started doing lives, the lives were always at noon because of my time frame of running a cigar lounge. So they're going back to noon, starting next week. So how many of you guys saw my video I did earlier today about with the young lady pastor who was cherry picking the ideas from the Garden of Eden story in order to facilitate her personal desire that there is no 50-50 as you know when it comes to relationships. And a man is supposed to go out there and do all the work, and the woman is only responsibility just to have a baby. What up, Tim? Yeah, I was a few minutes behind. Get over it. Got a little bit of a late start tonight, but it's all right. But as I said, next week it'll be 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. Freeman said, what did Jesus mean when he said that ye are gods? He was quoting from Psalms, and Psalms David has said that it said that ye are gods, meaning that you have the power to create your own life. He didn't mean it in the sense that you get to create the universe or that you are the God or anything of that nature, but you have control over your own life, your own destiny. And that in comparison to the other people, uh, the Israelites were gods, were little mini gods because they were from the God. So when they tried to accuse Jesus of claiming to be God, he kind of was making a smart ass comment to the Pharisees and Sadducees that is it not written that ye are gods. Lady at my job was talking to another couple worker, and she said that I will overheard her say, when you get up in the morning, you should say thank you to Jesus, whatever. For what? Jesus did nothing to wake me up. Jesus didn't do anything, but a lot of people have that mentality that God wakes them up every morning because people dying in their sleep from different issues is one of the most common ways that people die. And then when that's the most common way people go. They may be dealing with an issue, and it's the issue that's why they die. But then they go to sleep one night and you don't wake up. You know, my grandmother went to sleep one night and she didn't wake up. She had a heart attack in her sleep. My grandfather went to sleep, had a heart attack that woke him up, and then he passed away. So our conversation tonight, at least the beginning conversation tonight, because I know how you guys are, you will easily change the subject matter, but I will keep it at bay for a little while. So if you saw the video I posted earlier today, there was a woman, she was preaching in a church, and she was telling the women that any man that says he's going to go 50-50 in a relationship, that man is only half a man. And that according to what she utilized was the Eve and Adam story, the Adam and Eve story, that according to that story, that men are to work from sun up to sundown, that it is not a woman's responsibility, or a woman should not have to contribute financially to the household, and that she is redeemed through childbirth. She goes through the labor of childbirth. She have her menstrual cycles, and a man can't handle those things. So that is all the woman's responsibility is when it comes to the relationship, but financially not so much. And she was wishing that more men was in the audience, because she was saying that men don't want to hear that. This is why women need freedom from this religion, is because of archaic thought thinking like that. And first thing and foremost, you have to look at the fact that the story of the Adam and Eve story is not a indicator that it is only the man's responsibility to provide. That is something that's held over from a patriarchal system. If you look at most people throughout time and history, there has never been a overarching society where the majority of women sat at home and did nothing but pop out babies. Most women tended the gardens or the farms or collected fruits and vegetables while men went out and hunted. When man became more agrarian, both the man and the woman would work the field, work the farm. When children were born, yes, she stayed closer to the house and maintained small gardens in and around the household, maintained the small animals around the household, while the man went out and farmed the larger area. This is not so much about dominance of one over the other, it's just about who's the skill sets. Men are physically stronger than women. That's a no-brainer. That's without, not speaking in ideas of superiority, but that's without question. The average man is stronger than the average woman. Therefore, the average man goes, the man would hunt, the man would work the larger fields, would lift the bigger, heavier things, move the heavier things. So this woman trying to use the Bible to say that, oh, when they were kicked out of the garden, Adam worked outside and Adam worked all day. Eve wasn't sitting around just having, sitting in the shade chilling. Eve would have been working as well, most likely alongside this Adam, if they existed. But you can't find a time in history where, sure, if you're rich, a woman can sit and not do anything. But the idea that she just sits home, he goes out and does other work. Now, that type of mentality has spread throughout history and society. And because of that type of mentality, there are certain things that, since she was cherry picking that, there are many other things that I cherry picked in that video that I pointed out that is not to the advantage of women. You see, when that woman was making that statement, she was only talking about what is an advantage to women. Right? She was not thinking about all the other scriptures that put women at a disadvantage. And after I made that video, I thought about, as I do quite often, how women are not equal in this book. Women are treated poorly in this book. This religion puts women at the same level of cattle, but yet women dominate the believers of this religion. As far as the entire world of Christendom, 54% of women claim to be Christian and have a deep religious belief system, where men are at 47%. In America, that number is even greater. It's 47% men, it's 68% women. 68% of the women. And when it comes to people who pray every day, over 70% of women who are Christian pray every day, where that number drops down to only, it maintains around 47% of men pray every day. This religion is upheld by women. It is not upheld by men. Men are leading it. Women, even when you see the situation where there's a woman pastor, there is a man who is generally over that entire church. Oftentimes it's a husband and wife combination. It is very rare in all actuality to see a full church that is just ran by a woman. Right? Very rarely do you have the woman who is a mega pastor or even over a medium-sized church or just a large church. If there is a woman that's over a church, it's usually a small church. But it depends on where you are as well. You still have within the Catholic religion, women do not hold any positions of power. They're not bishops, they're not cardinals, they're none of those things. The nunnery is the highest position that they get to hold. They're not archdiocese or anything. The Methodists, the Mormons, you name a denomination, and overwhelmingly it is led by men, but the support structure is women. So when you look at the Bible, they teach it based on keeping those women in the church. So no wonder this woman was teaching that, hey, the man should be the one working, and no 50-50. Now I'm gonna go ahead and diverge for just a second here and talk about the relationship issue. If you are a Christian woman and you are watching this video for some strange reason, you decided you wanted to watch this video, you are a fool if you would think that you are going to be able to have the lifestyle you desire and you work. It's one thing on like there was a video I did on my relationship channel where the man works, his wife hasn't worked for 13 years. They are fine with their lifestyle. But you are a fool if you think that you are going to work. He works, yet he pays all the bills. And let me be like some women are in the relationship side. Why would a man work, pay all the bills, pay for your car, pay for the food, pay for everything, And then when you leave him, you walk away with your large stash of cash that you've been building up for years. Why would any man allow that? Why would that ever? No man would allow for you to sit there and stack your cash while he pays for everything. And when you leave him, you bankroll. And then when you leave him, because what people may not realize that 80 to 85% of divorces are initiated by women. So don't take me saying that as something that doesn't happen that often. 80 to 85% of divorces are initiated by women. So what makes you think that in today's world, a man is going to sit there and not build his own wealth while you are building your wealth? See, the problem is that you don't understand that it shouldn't be 50-50, no, but it shouldn't be 100-0 either. It's 100-100. He gives all, you give all. Our court systems in most places are set up where divorce is just a financial breakdown. They have taken the emotion out of the judge's hands, and they look at everything for finances. And that's why all it is. So if you buy into what this woman is saying, you will find yourself alone, by yourself, because there's no way any sense or a sensible man is going to do that. If you find a man who does that, he's a simp, plain and simple simp. He is not worthy of leadership, right? Because it should all be about doing this together. Now back to the what we talk about. Women should be free of this religion. You see, that idea of the woman sitting there and get to hoard all her stuff, and the man goes out and does all the work, is not even supported by this book. There is not one time that this Bible supports the idea that the woman doesn't add to the value of the household, that she's just sitting at home and not doing anything, that her job is just to sit up there and live lavishly, right? They put in work. It's not the same type of work that most of the men put in. They're not out there being shepherds, because if you think about shepherding, yeah, you might think you're just walking around, just leading the sheep, but you got to fight off the wolves. You got to fight off the wild dogs. You got to fight off the lions. You got to fight off the animals. You got to pick them sheep up and shear them and all these sorts of things. That's very laborious work, at times, and you don't have women doing that. You got to be out there in the middle of nowhere, where you got to fight off bandits. Yeah, not doing that. It's not the best job to put women in, right? So this idea, exactly, Shirley. Back in back in the early '70s, they were speaking of 100% participation for the healthy marriage. Yes, but nowadays they backed off. That it's become this 100-0. Before I started dating my wife, actually before I even met my wife, two women that I dated thought that it should be 100-0. And as soon as they express the 100-0, you got to go. This relationship ain't gonna work. So the conversations ended right there. It ended. There was no need to explore the relationship any further than that, because you already showed me your selfishness. But as you look at this Bible, the Bible really hates the women, and I'm going to go over some of the things that I talked about in the video that I did earlier today, but I'm also looking at it. We're going to talk about some other things here. One of the smart ass comments that I made in the very first beginning of that video was the fact that, and understand, I want y'all to think about this, contemplate this for a second. Eve got punished for listening to a stranger. Adam got punished for listening to his wife. Think about that now for a second. If you were to take a lesson from that situation, tell me if I'm wrong. Because when God came, in the story, when God came and found them in the garden and then they finally came out, Adam blamed Eve for giving him the fruit. Eve blamed the serpent for beguiling her. So this God meted out punishments individually based on the initiator. The serpent, you crawl on your belly, you eat dust. The woman, you know what? You can't just be redeemed simply through animal sacrifice or anything, or Jesus or anything like that. Women, you are now redeemed also through the pain of childbirth. And now Adam, because you listen to your wife, you are going to now have to work for your substance. Prior to that, Adam just walked around the garden, tended the garden. But now he got to work. So the punishment got easier, softer, until you get to Adam. So I want you to think about it. If you were to go by this Bible, Eve got punished for listening to a stranger. Adam got punished for listening to his wife. So Adam should not listen to his wife. Man should not listen to his woman. And the woman need to stop listening to strangers. I guarantee she didn't preach that. That lady, that woman who made that video about, who was preaching, talking about men, this 50-50 stuff, I guarantee she didn't preach that part. Lilith is a make-believe character just like the rest of them. Lilith is not in the Bible at all. So, I mean, am I wrong? I can be wrong. I don't mind being wrong, but I just don't think I am when it comes to this situation. If you're going to say that Adam now has to work from sun, that man has to work from sun up to sundown, then man shouldn't listen to his wife. Because even Paul comes later on and says it wasn't Adam who first transgressed, but it was the woman. And that is why women need to be silent in the church and not take any authority from the man. So, because the woman, it was the woman's fault, according to Paul. So, men, don't listen to your wives. Wives, stop listening to strangers. The only person the wife should listen to is her husband. Because God didn't tell Eve not to eat from the tree. The accepted idea is that Adam transferred this information down to her. That's why she added some stuff to the whole situation. Adam was told, in the day that you eat from the tree, you will die. Eve said, in the day that you eat it or even touch it, you will die. Nobody said anything about touching it. Just added some stuff. Added some stuff. So men, don't listen to your wives. If you're going to take that message, if you're going to take that information, that's where we have to go with it. Right? Because he ate from the tree after listening to her. So she got punished more so for that than Adam did. Which then gave Paul the idea that women should not be able to speak in churches. They should be silent. So she was actually, if that woman pastor then should have been looking at what Paul said, and she should never have been up there in the pulpit. Right? She should never have been in the pulpit if she was following the Bible. If she's giving messages from this Bible about how male and female relationships should work, she should never have been in the pulpit. Paul didn't say it once, but he said it twice. Keep your women silent in the churches for suffer them not to usurp the authority of the man. Wives, if you have questions, ask your husbands at home. You are to keep silent in the churches. She didn't preach that part. She left that part out. She won't say anything about that. What's another aspect of the Bible that she would leave out? What's up, Stephanie? Do you think that those Anunnaki beings modified the DNA of those slaves in the Garden of Eden? If you go by the Anunnaki story, then yes, they did. They modified the DNA of the people in order to make them into slaves. And maybe that's why we see fused genes that don't happen naturally, that we don't see happening naturally in nature. But there are so many aspects of the Bible that should be freeing for women of today. That women should be the largest group of people walking away from this Bible. Many people won't even realize or recognize that the Bible says that if a woman was to give a promise to do something, if she promises another man or another woman to do something, if she promises a gift, if she promises anything, that her word does not become contract for 2 to 3 days. And that at any time in those 1 to 2 or 3 days, if her husband or father comes and says, no, I don't care what she said, no, then her word, her promise is invalidated. So, and I'm staying on subject. I see some of y'all are making comments about other stuff. I'm staying on subject right now. I don't know about Jesus' relationship being with a man. I know there's him with a butt naked boy in one part of it, but I don't. We stand right here for a minute. After we do this part, first hour, then we can move on to other things. But why do women stay in? How many of the ladies that are on here right now? I know there's at least 1 or 2 women who are on here right now. There's probably more. There's only 1 or 2 that's actually communicating. But ladies, did you grow up in the church knowing that if you gave your word, that your father or your husband or your eldest brother could come and say no, could reject whatever promise you gave, that your word wasn't worth anything? Women are leaving the church. That is true. Women are leaving the church in large numbers. That's usually when you look at the younger generation. That is usually in the younger generation that's leaving the church. But more men have left the church than women. Women are starting to wake up, though. But it's the woman that has to wake up. They are the foundation of the church. But Gen Zs and millennials, yes, I don't see a name. They are the ones who are leaving. So there is hope for people to leave this religion. But how many women on here, or even the guys, know that they could retract their woman's promises? And I believe that information is either in Leviticus or Numbers. It's in Leviticus or Numbers. That a woman's word isn't worth anything. That if a woman gave an eyewitness account, this is also in Leviticus or Numbers, that if a woman gave an eyewitness account, that her eyewitness account is not valid unless it is supported by a man. You know that Muslim women have half the eyewitness power of man. Yes, it's they get it from the Old Testament. But yes, I'm just reading some of your comments, the ones that are in the step of what we're talking about. But did you know that a woman's eyewitness account didn't carry much weight, if it carried any weight at all? You see, the lady wasn't preaching that. She wasn't going to preach that at all, not even slightly. Mm-hmm. No. Now, you guys may remember when we was going through Deuteronomy, we went through a part where it talked about the fact that the women were saying that they should have gotten an inheritance, and they were mad about not getting an inheritance. The daughters of this one man, I can't remember his name. And then Moses came back and said, you know what, you women, y'all should get an inheritance. But if you ever marry somebody outside of the tribe of the Israelites, then you lose that inheritance. So what does that mean to a woman of today? That means that if you are a black woman and you marry a white man, whatever the inheritance that your father gave you before you married that man, you lose it. If you are a white woman and your father gave you an inheritance and then you go marry a black man, you lose it. If you are a black woman, you go marry an Asian man, you lose it. White woman marry an Asian man, you lose it. Asian woman marry a black man, you lose it. If a woman marries anybody outside of her tribe, outside of her group, then you lose whatever inheritance you had previously acquired from your father. And then that was even ignored later on. That was ignored later on. I want you to think about something. In the story of Ruth, when you look at the book of Ruth, Naomi was married to an Israelite man. They had sons. The sons were given a Moabite and an Ammonite, two Moabite wives. The husband dies, the sons die. All right. Now, when Boaz is talking to the elder, he says that somebody needs to take over the inheritance of Naomi's husband. If they were abiding by the rules that Moses had set up, why didn't Naomi inherit that land instead of them just having to live like on the outskirts of the town, collecting the little leftover wheat? Shouldn't she have automatically, Naomi, automatically inherited that land? But no, she didn't. So even the laws that's supposed to allow for women to inherit land couldn't do it. And it's interesting because Ruth couldn't inherit it because she was a Moabite. But as soon as Boaz marries Ruth, he then gets the land that his cousin, the husband of Naomi, now that he owned, his inheritance that he had got from his father. Mm-mm. You got to find it and go read it, Isaac. Those women got their inheritance, but were told that they had to marry an Israelite man in order to maintain it. Let's make sure. Let's make sure. Moses gave women an inheritance. Yeah, the daughters of Zelophehad. Yeah, that dude. It's in Numbers 27. Numbers 27, RSV. These are our congregation next to the tent of meeting, saying, Our father has died in the wilderness. He was not among the company of those who gathered themselves together against the Lord in the company of the Korah, but died of his own sin, and he had no sons. Why should the name of our father be taken away from his family because he had no sons? Give us a possession amongst our father's brethren. Moses brought their case before the Lord, and the Lord said to Moses, the daughter of Zelo, all right, you shall give them the possessions of their inheritance among their father's brethren, and cause the inheritance of their fathers to pass to them. And you shall say to the people of Israel, if a man dies and has no son, then you shall cause his inheritance to pass to his daughter. And if he has no daughter, then you shall give his inheritance to his brothers. And if he has no brothers, then you should give the inheritance to the father's brothers. And if he has no fathers and no brothers, then you shall give his inheritance to the kinsman of the next to him of his family, and he shall pass it. And it shall be to the people of Israel a statute and ordinance as the Lord had commanded Moses. So now, nothing about them being married first. Now that is it's flipped about the, I gotta find it now. Now I said that part. Women lose their inheritance when they marry outside of their tribe. Bible. Let's see what that part is. Numbers 36. All right, 36. The heads of the father of the house of the families of the sons of Gilead and the sons of Machir, sons of Manasseh, and the father of the house of the sons of Joseph, came near and spoke before Moses and before the leaders, the heads of the father's house of the people of Israel. They said, the Lord commanded my Lord to give the land for inheritance by lot of people of Israel. And my Lord was commanded by the Lord to give the inheritance to Zelo, our brothers, to his daughters. But if they marry to any of the sons of the other tribes of the people of Israel, then their inheritance will be taken away from the inheritance of our fathers and added to the inheritance of the tribe to which they belong. So it will be taken away from the lot of our inheritance. So in 36, they add a little caveat to the whole thing. Yeah, lawnmower money. I was about to say something about your spamming there, but I see you got it. But yes, marriage within the tribe was the condition by which that these women would be able to maintain their inheritance if they married outside the tribe. Now, Naomi didn't marry outside the tribe. Naomi should have gotten the inheritance. But I understand this is talking about daughters. So daughters are more important than wives. It's a very interesting thing. But they skirt around it. Women don't get to maintain property. They lose their inheritances. So if women were actually upholding this Bible, then when your father dies and he leaves you a house and he leaves you some insurance money, but if you go marry somebody who's a different tribe, different group, racial group, and in this case it's talking tribal. So if you're an American and you go marry a African or European or Spanish, Mexican or somewhere, some other tribe, because all nations are as big ass tribes, then you should lose your inheritance because it has to remain within the tribe itself. But of course, no pastor is going to preach that. they're going to leave that alone. They're going to walk away from that kind of teaching. They're going to walk away from that. You can't allow for women to be subjugated in that manner, other than telling them to be silent in the churches. One of the most horrific aspects that I didn't talk about on that video about women and how this Bible treats women is that first of all, women couldn't marry who they wanted to marry. Let's deal with that for a second. How many of you ladies out there, and how many of you guys, period, realize or recognize that according to the Bible, women could not choose to whom they would marry? That you were like cattle. That you, and many people are going to say, well, that's just the majority of people probably didn't adhere to that law. That's bullshit. That is utter nonsense. That was how it was done. That was how it was done for an incredibly long time. We didn't start seeing we did not start seeing marriage being romanticized until we get more into, and I'm just talking about the Mediterranean world, Mediterranean people, but even in other cultures around the world, this idea was still prevalent. But it wasn't until you start getting into the 16th century before you start seeing people marrying not just because of an arranged marriage. You started seeing people, they might ask for permission to marry to a father, and that father had to grant that permission. But the arranged marriages, you started to see poor people kind of get away from that. Poor people weren't as concerned about that because they didn't have property. They weren't trying to merge families. But you still saw people asking permission. And you didn't see it finally, even today, we still ask permission as just kind of an old kind of way of doing things, but it's not like it really matters. But it's not until the 20th century that you see it completely almost out of favor in most of the world. You can go to India and Saudi Arabia and places like that today, and you can still see arranged marriages. But you didn't even get to choose your husband. According to this Bible, women shouldn't be choosing their husbands. Why they don't preach that? Most certainly, Marcus. They cater to women because without women, their churches would fall. First of all, women doing all the free work. And the second thing, women are the most likely ones to give up that money. That's why the music plays when it plays, but when it's time for the money, so they can invoke emotion. But I guarantee if that pastor was doing a sermon about how women shouldn't be out here choosing their husband, that their fathers should be choosing the husband for them, they wouldn't be giving up that money. They're not going to preach that. And then the worst forced marriage, the absolute worst forced marriage, comes in the form that we find in Leviticus, where it says that if a woman who is not betrothed, now I want you to think about this. Generally, in those time frames, and in all the way up until like the early 20th century, once a woman starts having a menstrual cycle, generally it was time for her to be wedded. I want you to think about that. Think about that for a second. When a woman starts having her menstrual cycle, that's when it's time to wed the woman. So a woman, if she wasn't betrothed at birth, would generally be betrothed by the time she has right after she has her menstrual cycle. It's time to find her husband at that point. Got to get her married on. Leah was a little late because she had a lazy eye. And her daddy tricked the old boy. But generally, by the time they start having that cycle, their fathers pawning them off for some property. Right? Now, I want you to think about something. It says that if a man was to essay a woman who is betrothed, then of course, if the woman screams, then she is not stoned to death. But if she goes into shock and she doesn't scream and she's in the city, then she's stoned because she didn't scream. If the woman is betrothed and she's outside the city, it doesn't matter if she screams or not because there was no one to hear her. So therefore, the woman is not stoned. Now, if a young lady who has not been betrothed to a man, now think about what we just said, what I just said. Generally betrothed at birth or betrothed when she starts her menstrual cycle. So on average, let's say a woman starts her menstrual cycle somewhere between 12 and 15. So if a woman is essayed before and she's not betrothed, so she's somewhere between 15 down, then if the man pay 50 pieces of silver, that young lady has to marry the man that essayed her. So you got a 15-year-old, 14, 13, 12, 10, 9, 8-year-old who's been essayed, and now they have to marry the man that essayed her. She doesn't get a choice. Nobody asked her. Nobody questioned. Nobody said, how are you going to handle the emotions of looking at this man who took advantage of you, and now you got to provide him children and he can never divorce you? I got daughters. There's no way in hell I would force my daughter to marry her essayist. And then she has to provide children. If anything, somebody gonna get killed. And it ain't gonna be me, and it won't be my daughter. So you know who it's going to be. Yes, Stephanie, it is very disturbing. It is very, very disturbing that this was the mentality that somebody put pen to paper and said that this is a commandment from the Lord, from God. Mm-hmm. And what is, I understand that, but you still have developmental things that haven't really occurred yet. But even a 10-year-old girl who has her cycle should not be getting married. No. And that's the whole thing. You can't maintain male supremacy if you give women autonomy. And part of the supremacy was to make sure that I can control if that child that comes out of her is mine. That was if you, it is so sad that when you really think about it and break it down, a lot of the control that men wanted to have, and still to this day desire to have over women, is to make sure that whoever gets their inheritance or whoever they're taking care of, that is their bloodline. I don't want to spend 20 years taking care of a child and find out that the child's not mine. This was their mentality. I don't want to build up all this land, business, cattle, and everything, and then I die and the cattle and everything goes to a child that wasn't my bloodline. This is why in Judges, another thing about towards women, that if your husband suspects you of being pregnant by another man, he takes you to the priest. They mix up a little potion. And then if you have a miscarriage, then you cheated on him. That's not your baby. And so now you get stoned to death. If you don't have a miscarriage, now you get to go home with your husband. You have the baby. He thinks the baby is his because we know this potion really knows DNA like that. Oh. I mean, the psychological damage that's done in a marriage at that point, you might as well not even be married. There's no trust. But you mix up a little potion, and now if the baby is miscarriage, you stone the woman. So I guess you start over clean. But if not, you've been walking around, you still gonna look. Let me tell you something. If you have ever had reason to suspect your partner of cheating on you, unless there is some hardcore evidence to prove otherwise, there will always be something in the back of your mind. There's always going to be something there. You may be able to go on with your life. You may be able to enjoy your partner and everything, but there's always going to be something in the back of your mind. It's going to creep your little head out every now and then. Every now and then they're going to say something, do something. They ain't even got to say something, do something. You're going to see something, you're going to hear something, and they're going to boop. That little doubt going to come right back up. You know the funny thing, Marcus, is that little potion, it could have just had women have miscarriages, and it didn't. It was just a miscarriage. Because let's think about this scientifically. The potion doesn't have any regards of the DNA of the man in it. It's not like, I would halfway believe it if the man if he, whacked one off into the potion and then she drank it, at least some of his DNA is in there. And then, the mixture strengthens his DNA. And if there's not his DNA in the child, then somehow it fights it and kills the DNA. If there was something like that, if there was some type of DNA from the man going into this this miscarriage juice, I might give them a little bit, the smidgen of credit. But absolutely none of the man's DNA goes into this juice, but it's supposed to know who was married to who and whose sperm got up in there. So I would imagine the overwhelming majority of these that had miscarriages from this potion are probably women who never cheated on their husband in the first place. That's a whole nother. There's a whole story about Judah and Tamar, which I've never understood why people name their daughters Tamar. Don't make any sense to me. But according to the Levite marriages, what Isaac is saying here, Tamar marries Ur. Ur is killed by God for no apparent reason. But because they don't have any children and Onan hadn't been married yet, Onan now has to marry Tamar, have sex with her. His son, the first child that is produced from this union, carries, in their minds, the bloodline of his brother. Where does that make sense? How does that make sense? It does not make any sense. Now, of course, Onan jizzed on the floor, so God killed him. Tamar then dressed up as a prostitute. Now, in order for Tamar to become a righteous woman, she had to dress up as a prostitute, trick her father-in-law to have sex with her. He then impregnates her, and these jokers, they be getting pregnant on the first go-round. Impregnates her, and when she's found pregnant, now he wants to kill her because he wouldn't give his youngest son, and then makes her more righteous, and then goes ahead and makes her his wife and his wife, and then they have a Perez, who is in the line of David, in the line of Jesus, the whole wife. Your cousin is named Tamar. They shouldn't have done it. They should change her. She should change her name. We ain't even went through half of this book. And this book is already demonstrating how it just does not like women. Women are considered a lower standard. You're married off like cattle, right? You're married off like cattle. Oh, look at old Rivers finally coming to alive to say absolutely nothing. And dude, here's the thing. I am respectful to you. I corrected you on how my name is spelled. But if you want to insist on being disrespectful, I have never banned anybody from my channel, but I will ban you. It is one thing for you to have your little comments, but no man names me. I can deal with dumbass James before I deal with another man trying to name me. So if you can't get your little, and I believe it's either Alabama or Mississippi, your little Alabama or Mississippi mind right, and at least show a little bit of decency, and you can get banned. That's why I don't even read his comments, and I'm not reading this one today. So anyway, nope, not gonna do it. 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 But anyway, so I went off yesterday on some folks. I don't want to do it 2 days in a row. So as we were saying, the women in the Bible, and this is why so many men love this Bible, because it gives them this power over women. Right? It allows for them to be able to hold women down. Tell them that you can't wear certain jewelry, braided golden braidings in your hair, like that pastor that I showed you guys the other day, who was talking about how these women shouldn't be wearing braids and it should be illegal for women to wear braids. Because they braids is getting in people's mouths when they're in the hospitals, and the teachers shouldn't be able to wear braids, so on and so forth. These are this is that mentality, and of holding women down like that is all throughout this Bible, no matter how much they try to flip it or switch it. It's what they count on. They count on women falling for this nonsense. And it's not like Jesus was any better. Canaanite woman come up to Jesus, ask for some help. Instead of him doing like other people, helping other people, what he tell that woman? Called her a dog. Told the dogs shouldn't get the meal that has been prepared for the children. So it's not like Jesus is any better at this. Yeah. Braids have been something that has been in the Black culture for centuries. But he called that Canaanite woman a dog, and that woman had to say even dogs eat the scraps that fall off their master's table. And then of course he was like, oh yeah, you know what? You got a point. My bad. I didn't mean to. I guess I can't heal your daughter. He ain't had no problems healing that Roman centurion's child. When that Roman centurion man came up to him, he had no problems. But when that woman came, oh, she a dog. When the woman who had the issue of blood came up and tried to grab the cloak, the disciple was like, get the hell on here, get on from here now. When he saw the Samaritan woman at the well, he just told her, give me some water, woman. You know, you ever see them dudes who they big and bad when they talking to a woman, but then you talk to another man and they all of a sudden want to humble themselves. Yeah, that's what the Jesus character demonstrates. They want to humble themselves. Talk shit to the Samaritan woman. You know, don't tell her all about her life and demand water from her. Tell the Canaanite woman she's a dog, but with the Roman centurion, oh sure, boss. Sure thing, boss. You need your child to be healed? Sure thing, boss. Gotcha. No problem. He was quick with it when people of authority came his way. And that's why they love it. That's why these men, they love this Bible. They get to hold people down. They get to hold the women down. Because it's all about their bloodline. See, when a woman has a baby, you know that baby came from that woman. There ain't no doubt about that. She had that baby. But these men, we don't know. Even in today's world, unless we get a DNA test. So imagine before DNA tests were available. How would you know? Literally, no man without a DNA test can be 100% assured that his children are his children. I mean, yeah, you got some of them come out and they look just like the daddy. Like my two daughters, they look just like me. That boy, not so much. But this is why women should leave this church, leave this religion. You have no standing. You have no standing in Islam. You have no standing in Christianity. Oh, and they like to throw up, oh, well, you know, they had deacons and women would prophesize. And what about Martha? She has some money. And what about, the Aquila and Priscilla? You name one or two women who might have had some level of authority, but the overwhelming condition of the rest of the people demonstrates something completely opposite. Since the majority of the people on here are of high melanin count, let me put it in a framework. You got the one black dude who's working as a mid-level manager or VP at a company, and all of a sudden, oh, everything's fair. Everybody got an equal opportunity. When the overwhelming majority of African American schools that African Americans are participating in don't hold to the same standard, don't have the same level of teachers, don't have the same level of classes, but you want to find the one. So when you point out Priscilla, Aquila, and Martha, you're talking about the one. When you point out Esther, you're talking about a woman that the only way that she can save her people was to spend a year learning how to be the perfect little wifey for perfect little wife for his name just fell out my head. Xerxes. Want to be the perfect wife for Xerxes, and then get that one night to give him that shakalaka boom boom to become one of his wives. Oh yeah, this is very much pushed on the far right agenda. And you are absolutely right. He did slut shame that woman. Oh, you had 5 husbands, and the one that's with you that you shacked up with now is not even your own husband. Now he ain't never say anything about a man having multiple multiple wives. He don't say nothing about Abraham having 3 wives during his lifetime. And isn't that an interesting thing? The man can have multiple wives, but the woman, according to the Bible, cannot have multiple husbands. Something ain't right with that. Because as you know, if a woman has multiple husbands, she gets pregnant, who baby is it? Now, for the people who are in that type of relationship, they all just look at, if they're mature, they all look at the child and say, it's all our children. That's right, run some laps, Hurricane. You cool with that? So Tim, you can be with a woman with multiple husbands? Is that what you're saying? Is that what you're saying, Tim? And it is most likely that the Jesus character, if there is a character that he is based off of, well, there are multiple ones that Josephus talks about, as we went over that a couple weeks ago. But that was some side booty that Mary got, and Joseph was just being a nice guy. Oh, okay. Well, you said you cool with that right after I said, but it might be a delay. It might be a delay. Now, I've never seen that Hindu mythology has women with 5 husbands too, 5 brothers. I don't know of that story. So you're gonna go Mormon? But even though I've left a lot of things out, I think that if these pastors actually preached what this Bible says concerning the condition of women in most situations, they would walk away. I questioned the pastor one time. He did a sermon about Jesus drawing this line in the sand when the adulterous woman was brought to him. And I asked him, I said, okay, you brought up the whole sermon and you talked about it, and I get everything that you were saying. But why didn't you bring up the fact of why Jesus didn't ask, where's the man that she committed adultery with? Because no woman can commit adultery by herself. And if that woman committed adultery, that means she was married to somebody or betrothed to somebody else. So whomever the man was that she had sex with was also in violation in committing adultery. So if Jesus was being fair, where's the man? Why didn't he ask the Pharisees and Sadducees where the man was? Well, the message was, the overarching message is, let he without sin cast the first stone, saying that we all are sinful, and who are we to judge other people? I get that. But that was a golden opportunity if Jesus cared about fair play. But evidently he didn't care about no fair play. Now Delilah had, I don't want to meet a Delilah. Delilah got that good pum pum, man. Keep that Philistine pum pum away from me. She got a man telling all his secrets. So if we want to talk about we can talk about anything else, anything right now, any subject matter that you want to bring up is perfectly fine. We're good. Christopher, oh, you talking to James. We know that there is actually no evidence that Jesus of the Bible actually existed. You cannot name one shred, and that's funny because I thought about doing the historicity of Jesus for tonight, but there is not one shred of evidence that says that Jesus of the Bible actually existed. Not one. Oh, Rebecca was tripping. What mother plays favorites with her children? Just as what, and Isaac wasn't no better, what father plays favorites with his children? And then she sends her son off to go marry his first cousin. And he come back with 2 first cousins and 2 slave wives. Doesn't even come back for the funeral. Wasn't even there to bury his parents. Her favorite son abandoned her ass. Abraham has 3 wives. Sarah, Hagar, and what's her name? Kedar. After Sarah died, he married another woman. I think I don't remember her name exactly, but he has 3. He was in his lifetime, according to the story, he was married to three women. What? The government said that the government, I exist because I'm right here. That's a dumbass. That statement don't even make sense. Yep, Jesus started existing around 70 AD when they made the stories up. Yep, Lot's daughters getting their daddy drunk. And see, they make, if something bad is going to happen, they definitely make sure the women are involved in it. Jacob's daughter, her name starts with a D. Forgot what it is. She is only named because she's the one that's been taken advantage of, so that her 2 brothers can go and genocide a town. Recently heard that Mary may have been an intersex person that impregnated herself, and it's scientifically possible. No, it's not. When that is not possible for even an intersex person to impregnate themselves. The fetus, when it does rarely happen, there has been not one case where the fetus actually developed into a person, developed into a baby that is born. You know, I don't know what he's talking about. But we don't have, there's no case where, and parthenogenesis is impossible to happen in humans. It cannot happen in humans. Most likely she was essayed by a Roman, or she was in love with somebody else and got caught up. But the more than likely, she's a fictitious character. Mary ain't, there is no Mary that existed, just as there's no Joseph who existed. Look, even when they try to make a woman look good, they throw in something to make her look bad. Think about when Sheba supposedly came up to meet with Solomon. The Songs of Solomon, most of it sounds good, but then she has to make this comment about the women looking at her, don't think badly of me because of my dark skin. Now, it's not a racial thing. Before somebody go there, it's not a racial thing. Mediterranean societies view people who have darker complexion as a lower caste because that means they work outside. They're poor. So the lighter you were, based on your tribal group, it means that you don't work outside. You're not poor. So it's a status thing. But she was dark because she's just dark. Okay, I'm gonna entertain James for a second. You're not a scientist. So James, do you drive a car? I mean, you're not a mechanic. You don't know how to build a car, but you know how to operate a car. Do you know how to cook? I mean, you're not a chef. You're not a farmer, so you shouldn't know anything about vegetables. You're not a rancher, so you shouldn't know anything about animals. So you shouldn't be able to cook. That's by how idiotic that sounds. Like you got to be a scientist to be able to read a book or to read scientific discoveries or read about science. Like, oh, you're not a scientist, so you can know. That's right. The melanin was popping, but she was coming from either Yemen or somewhere like that, according to the story. They weren't used to seeing all that melanin. James is special, bless his heart. I did not know they said that sinners were noticed by the flint-like color of their skin in the book of Nephi. I didn't know that. I know they said that the reason why they were black people because they didn't pick a side between Lucifer and Jesus. What the fuck? See, I don't want people who watch these later to think that I just be making stuff up by what this man be putting on the screen. Uh, if we lived in a society, which there's never been a society where you couldn't speak on things unless you participated in such thing or studied such thing, then we would have a very silent society. Don't tell me that it's gonna rain. You ain't a meteorologist. Don't tell me you know how clouds form. You're not a meteorologist. Don't tell me how electricity works. You're not an electrician. But anyway, like I said, the floor is open. I don't know how I got through this cigar pretty quickly tonight, boy. Maybe because it's just good. I don't know. Actually, I thought we would get more. I would get more irritated by Rivers tonight. It's interesting. Rivers like to be in the comments, uh, but like most of them, he will never come on the show. He will never come on the show. He likes to write these long ass uh, soliloquies and everything, but he never comes on the show because he knows he has nothing that he can actually say that in a one-on-one conversation that he would lose. And I'm gonna say 99% of the time. Talk about the lazy husband of Proverbs 31. Does Proverbs 31 talk about a husband? What, what are you where are you angling at on that? Proverbs 31 RSV. Because I know Proverbs 31 is, and it's women kill me with, I'm gonna be a Proverbs 31 woman. You need to find you a Proverbs 31 woman. Let's see. The words of the man king of the master saying, what my son, woman, what my son, not to give you strength, not to give your strength to women. before you come in. Now, are you saying that's a lazy husband because the woman is doing all the shit in Proverbs 31, and the man just needs to make sure he don't get drunk? What you got to tell me your thoughts on that one. Uh, exactly, Stephanie. He shouldn't tell me where babies come from since he's a man. You know, you're a man, James, so you have no idea how babies are formed and where they come from. You have no idea. You can't know anything about that. Well, he probably doesn't know anything about that. So, you know, he's probably never had any pom pom. So there's that part. There's that part. But yeah, I mean, a Proverbs 31 woman is doing every damn thing. I mean, you know, oh, you know what? Because you know how that the video I posted earlier where it's talking about how the man needs to go and work all day. So the Proverbs 31 woman, a good wife who can find. She is far more precious than jewels. The heart of her husband trusts in her, and he will have no lack of gain. She does him good and not harm in all the days of her life. She seeks wool and flax and works with willing hands. So she's doing some work. She rises while it is yet night and provides food for her husband and tasks for her maidens. She considers a field and buy it, and with the fruits of her hands, she plants a vineyard. She plants the vineyard. She girds her loin with strength and makes her arms strong. She perceives that she perceives that her merchandise is profitable, so she's selling some stuff. Her lamp does not go out at night. She puts her hand to the distaff, distaff, and her hands hold the spindle. So she's sewing some shit. She opens her hands to the poor and reaches out her hands to the needy. She is not afraid of snow for her household, and for her household are clothed in scarlet. She makes herself coverings, and her clothing is fine linen and purple. I mean, damn. It sounds like she's doing a lot of work. Sounds like she's doing some work. What's funny is I guarantee that that same woman that did that sermon would later on do a sermon talking about you need to be a Proverbs 31 woman. Yeah, Christians are, they're not capable of that, not even slightly. So they don't make them that way anymore. I can't say that. Without this being actually the Bible, I will say that my wife would fit that mold, and she ain't Christian, but I would say that my wife will fit that mold. She is not afraid to work. She takes care of me. She takes care of the house. She that woman. I know that if I couldn't provide for the household to the level of need, that she would not hesitate to work as well as still take care of the house. Hell, she the kind of woman, like, I know I gotta cut them grass out there. Let me delay too long and she'll be out there cutting it herself. And then I fuss at her. I'm Christian, I'm Catholic, I'm Jewish. Who goes to heaven? None of them, but they all claim it. Actually, a masculine woman is very attractive, especially nowadays where so many women are out of shape and overweight. And I would take a woman with muscles, a masculine woman. I would not. I do not like masculine women. I'll tell you right now. I no. Nope. I like girly. I like sexy. I love sultry. But I'm not taking a masculine. Dated a masculine woman twice, two masculine women. Mm-mm. Overly masculine women upset my peace. And my peace is so important. Oh, see now, Sade, now that's a sultry woman. That's the difference between sexy and sultry. You know, a woman can be sexy. You know, a woman riding a motorcycle, that's sexy. But Sade, sultry. Anita Baker, sultry. What if women were physically stronger than men? Then our societies would have developed completely different. We would not have the society that we have now. Uh, Women would dominate society the way men do now. I agree 100%, Bruce. You can believe and worship whatever you want. It stops when you try to, when your belief affects me and anybody else. I understand. I prefer a fit woman as well. Do the masculine be fussing you out? They don't fuss me out because I will. Look, I'm not one to yell and scream. I'll walk away from you in a heartbeat. You start doing all that yelling and screaming, and if you still don't know how to have a conversation, I just end the relationship. I don't have time to be yelling and screaming. Ain't no fussing going on. Some men like it. Some men like them. I don't have time for it. Give me Patty for them pies? Nope, I wouldn't take Patty. Mm-mm. I look at Patty's demeanor. Her demeanor is not something that I would enjoy. Mm-mm. Y'all know, we can going into what kind of woman y'all you jokers like. Yeah. See, Patty displays a little ghetto-ness to me. That's why I couldn't deal with her. Just like you know, the image of Whitney Houston was this when I was growing up. You know, same time she's growing up, and the image was the girl next door, sweet little. Uh, and then I met her, ghetto as hell. Oh yeah, I was at. I don't know what me and my wife was doing. We was doing something. We was. I think we was. What were we doing? We might have been in the car or something like that. No, we was leaving Cigar International. And I don't know how the conversation got into about sexy and sultry. And I was like, yeah, while everybody else was talking about In Vogue, and they was all like, they so sexy. I was like, nah, at that time frame, I was like, Anita Baker, because she's sultry. No, and there's some feminine women who are athletic. That's not a problem. I don't mind the athleticism. And you know, to each his own. Whatever you like is what you like. Whatever you like is what you like. Just like this guy named James. He not the James on here. A guy me and my wife knew named James. After multiple conversations with him and him fighting against it, he just had to admit one day he liked toxic women. He liked the ghetto toxic woman. And it's because he grew up with a ghetto toxic mother. I would hope so. But see, the type of I don't. If you can't, you got to be yourself at all times. I'm not. That's why I always say I'd rather be rich than famous because I got to be myself at all times. I'm not putting on airs for anybody. Exactly. That was his actual words. He said that he liked the drama. I don't. What? Okay. Yeah. No, not to me. But if that is works for you, it works for you. It works for you, not for me. Mm-mm. And I like them southern chicks. Tried them northern ones. Oh my gosh. Overly aggressive ass northern women. And I know not all northern women are super aggressive, but I haven't known one who wasn't. I'd rather be rich than famous. That's a song. I don't know. I don't remember that. Brittany Griner, that's the basketball player, right? Actually, she now plays for the Atlanta Dream. So now I have to cheer for her because she played for an Atlanta team. You know, I'm all Atlanta. And you got dang on right. Give me a Southern Belle. Exactly. Venus over Serena. All right. Somewhat of the subject. Coach, have you seen the big Christian split? MAGA Christians versus non-MAGA Christians? No, I have not seen that. I'm gonna have to research that. I'm gonna have to research that. I don't pay attention to a lot of the politics. I get some, but not a lot. I like Southern girls, South Korean. I know there's a split with the MAGA people because you got the I don't want to, don't go to Iran MAGA people. Get out, stay out of Iran and Israel's business MAGA people just concerned about America. I didn't know there was a Christian split with the MAGA people. You have the Southern Red Bone, Bluebell ice cream. I like the darkest dark, and I like the light caramel. But anything anywhere in between, darkest dark, the light caramel. You know, but you can't be too light. And this ain't got nothing to do with race. If I can see the color of your veins, I can't deal with it. I remember the first time I saw a white girl in a bikini with big old tatas, and they had them blue lines, the blue veins, and I was just like, oh my! I was so disgusted by that. I couldn't do it. It threw me off. You said it's new because the recent policies and comparisons to how Jesus lived and taught. Okay, I'm gonna research that. That might make for a good video or conversation. Yeah, but personality, I'm with you, Sean. Personality. Now, you could be the finest thing in the world, and the most beautiful thing in the world, but your personality can make you ugly as hell. And so I will go personality over looks any day of the week. I have a crush on Sonia Richards Ross. Never heard of that person. Sonia Richards Ross. Oh, you want them track girls? Okay, let me see a regular picture. She all right. She got that go ahead forehead. Little slimmy. That'll work. Yeah, now you can't be ugly. You can't be ugly. Now, anytime you see that dude or that woman and you look at their partner and they just look like hell on a stick, either somebody got some talent, some money, or some good pum pum. That shit did not happen organically. Like, ooh, look at them. I like them. They were friends for a long time, and then they realized, you know what? I really like this person. Because I look at some of these dudes, and I be like, that dude ugly as hell. Why are these women throwing themselves at him? Oh, he a singer and he an entertainer. That's why they doing it. Like Keith Sweat and Bobby Brown are not handsome, but they be throwing it. Y'all have gotten way into this damn subject matter. Oh, I know. Okay, I see what you're talking about. Yes, I have seen that aspect of it where you got the ones who are saying that none of the things that MAGA is doing is not what Jesus would do. I got you. I know what you're talking about. Yes. Oh, Toni Braxton, she good to go. I don't know about her personality, but she good to go as far as looks. I hated that late 80s when every woman thought they could wear that damn hairstyle though. Like that cut got on my nerves because not every woman can wear it. Yep, attraction is the first thing, then you got to get to know the person. Oh, I wouldn't be, you know what? I wouldn't be, it'll be messed up. But me and my wife were just talking about how I wouldn't be surprised if FIFA take the World Cup away from America and then take the Olympics away. The way this joke is doing stuff. You said only Tony and Halle could wear that short hairstyle. I mean, I grew up in Atlanta. There was a lot of women who could wear it, but there was a lot of them who shouldn't have been wearing that hairstyle. But I get what you're saying, though. I get what you're saying. Yeah, because you know, T-Boz, she rocked that hairstyle for a minute too. Yeah, I would not be surprised with if they changed the location. Of course, they would have to pay LA a whole bunch of money if they did so. They would the way those kind of deals work. Yeah, not everybody. You know, that's one of the things. People are copycat. They see something and then they start doing it. Right. Uh, it's funny how when I look at some of the people that I left in Atlanta, it's funny how I see a lot of them who, I don't want to say it arrogantly, but it's just going to come out arrogant no matter how I express it. A lot of them who now, a lot of them who look up to me, I see how they have changed the way they dress and some of the things that they do since I left. And it's funny as shit to me, you know. So people copycat things of people that they admire, so I can neither confirm nor deny that I participated in any of the events of Freaknik. Um, Man, hell yeah, I participated in Freaknik. I was 15, 16 years old participating in Freaknik. Like a champ. Oh yeah, freak. Yeah. But by the time it got around to about 90, now once I went to the Marine Corps, after 92, I never participated in Freaknik after 92. And even my participating in 91 and 92 was just kind of I was just people watching because I was married by then, so it was just people watching at that time frame. Prior to that, it was a different kind of freak me. You know, I'm glad we had cell phones back then. It's a good thing we had cell phones. Yeah. All right. Let's get to some. Uh, do you believe that women should take a man's last name when they're married? I think it's a personal choice. Uh, Back in the day, it's common, but I think it's a personal choice to do so. If my wife didn't want to take my last name, I would have been fine with that. Now, where I would have a problem, so since we were uh, older and got married, and she was still carrying her ex-husband's name. If she was like she's gonna keep that name, I would have been like, oh hell no. You can go back to your maiden name, go back to your daddy's name, but you ain't keeping another man's name. We're not doing that. I grew up in Marietta, Georgia. If you don't know what Freaknik is, don't worry about it. It ain't ever gonna be the same, Leon. It ain't ever gonna be the same. It was college. It was a college picnic that became a whole beast of its own. Made Daytona look tame. Daytona Beach weekends was tame compared to Freaknik. There were no immigration riots, there were immigration protests. If you only watch the news media, you would see they just focused in on anybody who was doing some vandalizing. But the overwhelming majority of people was peaceful. I even saw one of them. We was in San Marcos, Texas, when it was going on last weekend, and it was peaceful. It weren't riots. That's a good. Freaknik was like a black Woodstock. I'll give you that one. Do you believe fathers should take? You mean children should take their father's last name? Again, that would have to depend upon the family. Like, look, you got Shea Childress Alexander, right? That's the mother and the father's last name. You know, so you can hyphenate it. It all depends on who you with and what they think. You know, uh, for me, it was a foregone conclusion that my kids were going to have my last name. It was a foregone conclusion that my wife was going to have my last name. It's the era that I grew up in. It was the common thing that we did. As an older man, I don't really care anymore. You know, but the children are going to have somebody's last name. And I'm not a big fan of hyphenated names, to be honest. Just pick one, because nobody's calling you, for the most part, by a hyphenated name. Yeah, if you watch those protests, this is the beauty of, and I had this argument with a dude up at the cigar lounge in San Marcos because he was trying to be all MAGA with his whole little talk, and I was like, the beauty of social media is that everybody is a news outlet now, and so the media can't lie. If we only had the media when I was growing up, you would have thought that the world was on fire, that America was on fire because of what the news put out. But because people are able to post the realities of things, you saw that there was very little to no violence. Hell, in LA, the cops was ordering McDonald's to be delivered to them, and they were bored and on their phones. Right? I wouldn't do the hyphenated name because I mean it's actually harder on the child. Yeah, and I understand. Like some people do things out of spite. There's a woman who named her child "Still Waiting," and when asked, she said, "Because I'm still waiting on her daddy to do something." Okay, let me ask you a question, Hurricane. You said the protest is just the coward. And, okay, the protest is just a coward and proven strategy playing. I don't know what you're talking about. To be honest, I don't want to say what I think you're saying. Coach, how do you choose your topics of discussion for live stream? So sometimes I get suggestions from people who are members like you, um, and subscription holders. But most of the time, I just arbitrarily research stuff on a day, or and just what I research or things that just pop up. Like this discussion actually was a last minute. I literally had already created the title cards for a totally different discussion. Then I nixed that one and was going to talk about something else. And then I nixed that one like at 5 o'clock, like right around 5 o'clock, and decided this one. And it was really based on because I did that video earlier about that woman pastor and what she said. So they just come to me. God tells me what to talk about. I saw the documentary Freakonomics, but I cannot remember the doc. I can't remember what was on it. I saw it some years ago. Cloward and Piven is a man woman that saw the 91 riots as a platform to keep up civil unrest, to pass laws and start martial law. Oh, I'm unfamiliar with that. That's something I would have to research. But I can see that type of thing has been used. That's why we still taking off our shoes at the airport. Strong, but I'm speaking as well. I'm gonna keep on the whole thing either way. Okay, that's cool. I was very picky about my kids' names too. I was like, okay, I grew up in a time frame where you couldn't get a job if your name sounded a certain way. So I was very picky about names. And then I want to make sure the names couldn't be something that they could get picked on with their names. Freaknik copied off the Greek picnic in Philly, that the black fraternities, excuse me, sir, no, they're not from Philly. I don't know. The black, I just know the black colleges decide to have their Greek picnics based on fraternities. I don't know if they got it from somewhere else, but I just remember when they first started having it in Atlanta. I was real young then, and then it grew into Freaknik. But it started out as Greek fraternities and sororities would do this every year. They may have gotten it from somewhere else. I don't know. Do you believe a person can be transracial like Rachel? Okay, so at my core, I don't believe race exists. There's no such thing as the black race, the white race, the Asian race, and so on and so forth. And especially it's not delineated by skin tone. Just look at India. Everybody in India is considered Asian, but there are Indians who are darker than me. There's Indians who are lighter than me. So I don't believe in race at all. Now, because we have to deal with the people belief in race, no, I don't think you can be transracial. I think it's bullshit. Not on a literal. Now, if you feel that way, you can feel however you want, and you can identify however you want. But if we get to the nuts and bolts of things, no. Freakonomics is about a guy who named his two boys winners and losers. And ironically, winner became a criminal and loser became a doctor. I'm gonna have to watch this thing now. Oh, you're from Orlando? Yeah, I mean, Black Beach Weekend in Daytona used to be. I mean, that used to be the thing. You go to Black Beach Weekend in Daytona during, and then you go to Freaknik. And there's a whole bunch of people who moved to it, came to Freaknik, and then all of a sudden they didn't know how to leave the city and stayed there and wound up going to college there. It's like, get the hell on. Oh my God. I'm the same way I'm 50-50 on Carson, Billy Carson, I was 50-50 on Kevin Samuels as well. Some of his things I agree with, some of his things I didn't. Yes, I'm like Bruce Lee. I just see people as humans. Because all these racial categories is made up and really they don't stand up to scientific scrutiny. There is no such thing as race other than we are the human race. That's it. That is the one thing that a lot of people were afraid of when that Freaknik documentary came out. Like, what they gonna really put out there? I wasn't too worried about it myself. It was highly unlikely that my 15, 16, 17-year-old self was gonna be seen on any tape. If they would have had the fact that they didn't show any of the tapes from the Waffle House on Ponce, let me know that it was going to be tamed. Because what was going on at the Waffle House, I mean, not Waffle House, it was the IHOP on Ponce. Yeah, you don't want to know what was happening at the IHOP on Ponce or on Moreland Avenue. Whoo, there was some things happening on the highway that you didn't want to see. But yeah, race was created to justify slavery. Before the late 1400s, early 1500s, there was no such thing as race. It was tribes. But race was created in order to justify slavery. Right. And even with the human race, there's a line, there's a limit to it because you're right. You don't, a cat and a lion is not going to produce a child. They're both felines, but they're not. And even though we share, was it 98% DNA, like everything on the planet shares DNA. And even though we share 98% DNA with a chimpanzee, you are not going to produce a baby from a human and a chimpanzee. It's just not going to happen. No, it wasn't the 1800s. There was a the paper bull written by Nicholas the Fourth or the Fifth. I think it's Nicholas the Fifth in like 1547 is what established race. Is what began to what that was the first document that started to establish race. So you are way too late. It's the fifth around 1547. Right. It'll be Lorenzo, L.A. But yes, I would have been back then. Before then, I've just been Lorenzo the Nigerian or whatever the tribe was. Like some of my family members were Yoruba, some of them were Igbo, some were Mali, some so different groups. Some come from Ghana. You would have just been known from that tribe and nothing else. Just like, and that was with everybody. Even though people were Irish, they had different sections of different tribes within the Irish. People were uh, English, but they were different sections. People were Italian, but they were different sections based on smaller tribes. And they treated tribalism was treated the same way as racism. Some thought they were superior based on what tribe they came from. What up in the up? What up, Trifold? Been a minute. Oh, my cigar been gone. I'm gonna give you a little bit more time because I always do at least 2 hours. So we still got a little time left. What? Cigar check. Y'all funny. Y'all are funny. Y'all gonna stop acting like y'all know how I do things around here. One day I'm gonna trick y'all up. Now, most of you guys weren't on here when I made an announcement, so let me make that announcement again. Starting next week, the lives are going to shift back to the original times. That original time was 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. Some life changes are happening right now, so I'm going to have to shift the lives to 12 noon starting Monday. So when you don't see me in the evening next week, it's because I shifted to 12 noon. Now, I look at the Anunnaki a little bit differently. I don't see them as people coming from another planet, just a Ice Age civilization that had some technological advancements similar to what we have today, and they made themselves out to be gods. And the fools believe them. And I shouldn't call them fools. Back then, when you're living in more of a Stone Age type civilization, and somebody demonstrates abilities that are so far beyond what you can comprehend, you might regard them as gods. It says, great for you, Leon, to have to be up at 3 in the morning. I'm with you. But since we've advanced to the level of technology that we are at today, it will be very difficult for anyone to show up and convince the world that they are a god. We wouldn't think of them as gods. We would know that they are, since we've explored the majority, we haven't explored the majority of the earth. That would be a misstatement. But we wouldn't think of them as gods today because we have moved to a higher level of scientific knowledge. Now, that is without regard. I do think that there is intelligent civilizations on other planets. I just don't think they've been here. Now, we can somehow, unless they got some type of wormhole travel technology, ain't nobody been here yet. I think it's funny, I was just thinking about this earlier today, Stephanie, how there is probably in some far, far away from us, solar systems that are closer to each other where they can actually travel to each other. They've affected that travel. That we are kind of like out in the boondocks. Like everything is so freaking far away for us. You know. And that we just kind of like out in the sticks. Like you know how you had those well, I don't know if y'all had those, but I had those relatives that I remember going to Dayton, Ohio to our family reunion, and one year my grandfather made me, my brother, my uncle stay at this one family member's house, and she still had an outhouse. She had a pump well. We had to boil water to take a bath, that sort of thing. You know, she just out in the boonies. That's our solar system. We're out in the boonies. So we kind of out there. Ain't no damn ice wall. And yes, I do. I think the pyramid, the Sphinx and stuff was vandalized, but you know the story of Napoleon shooting off the nose is a urban legend. That's not a true statement. I think one of the Egyptian pharaohs vandalized it, and there are some who think that it's been the face of the Sphinx has been remade multiple times over the centuries. The Avengers was on someone they were talking about a multiverse, not in the way that they were talking about it. No, no. Yes, you're talking about the cargo. Like there's the cargo cult. They still are waiting. They still believe in um, John Frum. They worship a deity named John Frum, who was probably just an Air Force service member whose name was John from some city where he was from. But they still worship John Frum because they had never seen an airplane until World War II, and they was like so amazed because it was so scientifically behind. But multiverse, so like our singularity that created what we see as the known universe is a similarity that happens within the wholeness of the universe. That's the multiverse. Like we are a universe inside of the larger universe, and that is just our known universe. The more scientifically advanced we become, we will see further into the known universe. But even at traveling at light speed to get to the edge of what we see as the known universe would take 46 billion years to get there at light speed. So there has to be some type of wormhole travel or space folding travel in order for anybody to visit us. We out in the boonies. I'm not gonna say much about the Olmecs because I'm doing some research on the Olmecs right now. So just give me a couple days on that one. Give me a couple days on the Olmec. I'm intrigued that there are stars in other galaxies that are bigger than the sun we have. It makes me say there is nothing new under the sun. Do you know that there are some suns out there that are bigger than our entire solar system? Conceptualize that. That there are stars bigger than our entire solar system. That's a big ass star to be larger than our entire solar system. And there's some other things that we're finding out that we have to change our thought process on science. And that's the beauty of science. We always have to, it's open for a new understanding. Do I think it was a planet named Nibiru? Nope. A planet Nibiru wouldn't make sense in our solar system of life being able to survive. If you look at the orbit that Nibiru would have to take, unless it had an accompanying star with it, once it leaves the habitable zone, anything that could live on Earth would not be able to live outside of the habitable zone unless it carried with it its own star that provides a habitable zone for it. But there's no evidence of a star that close. The closest star to us is 4.2 million light years away. So, no, I don't think so. But since they always thought things came from the heavens, and if you saw an airplane for the first time and it descended down, or a helicopter, then it's coming from the heavens. Even watching a sail ship come over the horizon, the Aztecs thought that it was Quetzalcoatl coming as a return. And that's why initially the Cortez was able to trick them, because it fit their story. Yeah, each planet has been worshipped to a certain degree. But Saturn used to be worshipped big time. Do you think that there was life on Venus and Mars? Possibly. Possibly. Definitely Mars. What's even more interesting, and right now they're saying it's pseudoscience. They don't accept it. And there's a lot that has to be done in this discovery. But there are, based on mathematical equations and whatnot, and I think it's called the Bop equation or something like that. Mars may actually be a moon of a planet that was destroyed, and that planet would be the remains of that planet is the asteroid belt. Mars looks more like a moon, acts more like a moon, but had a atmosphere that could have provided life. Venus, in its development, I don't think it had a chance to develop life. It's possibly that it could have, but it didn't really have a chance in its life cycle to develop life on it before it became, superheated global, what is it called? Like greenhouse effect. Exactly. I remember reading something about that, how Columbus fooled the people with an eclipse, that he knew what was coming. If you know some stuff and you can make yourself look great, imagine if you went back in time and you had all the science books with you so that you can make whatever you need to make. You would be considered a god. It wouldn't matter if Nibiru was on a perpendicular uh, uh, ellipsis. It still goes way too far away from our sun to be able to maintain any type of life that will live on Earth. Didn't they find a face on Mars? That's still very debated. Some say it's just a mountain range, and the eyes see what the eyes want to see, but it's still debated. I think we really have to get some non-government crafts to get close enough. Now, of course, microorganisms is what they believe they've discovered on Mars, and that they still may be able to discover some on Venus, but it's going to be very, very difficult to get anything in Venus and out. Now, Venus, now I've always thought this. Now, I actually should do some research on it. You would think with the birth of our sun, and then as it grows, that when Venus formed, Venus would have been in, in the first habitable zone of our star. And then as that habitable zone went out further to where life developed on Earth and then Mars, it should, and Venus might have had some first life. So that was something that I had planned on researching as well. Y'all are going too fast. So I'll be a doctor who times 10 with time travel. I'm ending slavery everywhere. Yeah. I would go back in time, make them people believe, make everybody in the world think that I'm a god, and then end slavery, fairness between men and women, no more baby killing, no more animal sacrifices, the whole deal. But yeah, Adam, I definitely need to finish that research I was doing. I started doing some research about Venus because logically it would seem that Venus should have been able to produce life at some point, life that we would call life. So I'm with you on that one. And I'm with you on this, Stephanie. There, I do think so. There are countless realms of understanding of energetic planes, and I just call them energetic planes. I'm a forensic analyst. The two men, Cain and Abel, Incan and Enlil. Yeah, I can see how those stories, the story of Cain and Abel, can easily be translated from the stories of Enlil and Enki, and two brothers fighting each other. So too is the serpent and El Yahweh. Yeah, yeah. The different dimensions and realms would just be different planes of energy and frequency. It's just like something, just to put it in simple terms. There are animals on the planet that see different light energy or hear different frequencies that we can't hear and see. So if our consciousness can maintain its cohesion when you leave this body, the question then would be what levels of energy and frequency will it be able to exist in? So those are when I tell people I want to live forever, it's because there are so many scientific advancements that I want to see. It ain't about wanting to be here. That's for damn sure, because humans get on my nerves. But it's being able to see scientific advancements so that we can have deeper understandings of things that in 2,000 years, if technology continues on its upward path, what would we know at that time frame? It would be an amazing thing. Right, Randall. And the way that it's amazing. See, this is remember we was talking about you put your thought waves out last night and people receive that, it goes out there. Just last night, my wife and I was talking about the fact of how every animal on this planet except humans are in tune with the earth and they know shit. If and I was telling her if we were sitting here in San Antonio and all of a sudden all the birds start going north, we get in the car and we going north. If all the birds start going south, we get in the car, we going south. We getting hit wherever the birds go, that's where we're going. We got to get, I got, they know. I may not be able to know, but I can observe something. And that is what I hope that how can we increase our telomeres so that they don't degrade as they cells replicate? then you will live forever, barring accidents or diseases. Okay, Leon, I'm gonna have to look that up. There was a simulation recently that demonstrated using lasers to create a third beam of vacuum and quantum field according to tapping to either. Yeah, I'm gonna have to look that up. I haven't seen that one. Yep, I will be the cigar smoking Highlander. You got dang on right, Sean. I've I've heard of people who used animals to be able to know of danger, uh, especially people like in the Midwest, to know when there's hurricanes before the problem actually hits. Now I have heard that one that doing the cold plunges, and I used to do this when I lived in Germany. I would go to the mineral spa and I soak in the mineral waters, and then I get in the saunas and I go straight from the saunas into the cold plunge pools. Uh, I used to do that a lot in Germany, like every week, multiple times a week. I kind of miss the fact that we don't have that here. Uh, but like part of the plans of life is to purchase a hyperbaric chamber and to have a sauna and cold plunge pool. I want a sauna, cold plunge pool, and a hyperbaric chamber. And yeah, I don't take cold shower. I take hot showers, and then theoretically, I then finish with a cold shower afterwards. But the water here in San Antonio, at least in this house, if you start with a hot shower, you can move that thing all the way over to cold. It just stays warm. It just stays warm. This hot water heater and then hot temperature, it's hard to take a cold shower here. Do I think there will be another ice age or some sort of firestorm? There'll be another ice age. I don't know how far away we are from it. I think we might be due for one, but no, I don't think we're due for one right now. But I think there'll be some more. Oh, I didn't think about that. The cold plunge, the metal in your back would be cold for hours. Hmm. Oh well, I'm gonna have to deal with it. I don't have metal in me like that, but what little I do have, I just have to deal with it. But yeah. So I appreciate y'all. We about to go. It's been over 2 hours, and I have been without cigar for at least about 20 plus minutes or more. But yeah, I think we are overdue for an ice age. I'm just trying to go off memory on that one. But I appreciate you guys. We've had a great conversation. Started out talking about why women should leave this religion. If you missed all that good stuff, go back and watch it. So a few announcements. One, just to remind you guys again, starting next week, 12 noon Eastern Standard Time frame is when the lives are going to go. My life is changing a little bit, so I have to make that change. Uh, so 12 noon starting next week, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. 12 noon Eastern Standard Time, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. I know my international people are going to love that. Because as one person, I think Leon was the one who said that he ain't got to be up at one in the morning. Uh, so we had to go back to the original time frame when I was running the cigar lounge. If you haven't got your hotel reservation, go to the link in the bio and be here on the October 31st through the 2nd. If the price point is a struggle, then get with somebody else that you know you have talked to on here, and y'all share a room. Make it easy for you. We're gonna have some great meetups while we're here. No, San Antonio's in Central Time Zone, but I just use Eastern so that because that's easier for most people to uh, set their time with. So I look forward to it. So I want to show my appreciation. Thank you, everybody who supports the channel by being members on Facebook. I mean, subscription holders on Facebook, members on YouTube. Thank you, everybody who supports the channel that way. My cigars is getting low. Okay, cigars are getting low. All right, I only got 2 days worth of cigars, and we don't get paid until the 25th. So we need about $80, 80, what is it, $84 to get one of those packs. I need about just round it out to $100. I need about $100 to go buy some cigars so that I can make it to the 25th. So I need $100. Need 10 of y'all to give $10 so I can go get some cigars. I ain't lying. I'm serious. I need 10 of y'all get $10 so I can go get some cigars. But because we only got 4 in the humidor, we don't get paid till the 25th. But I appreciate you. I appreciate y'all. Make sure you are here in San Antonio. It'll be I will be pleased to meet as many of you guys as possible. It'll be a great thing. Yeah, you will. You think I'm joking? I need $100 to go buy some cigars to last until the 25th. You know, so. But I appreciate you guys, and I look forward to our next conversation. Monday, it will be at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time frame. Okay, 12 noon Monday. I don't want to hear anybody ask me where was I Monday night. All right, you heard it. And I'll probably do a video sometime over the weekend to remind you of the new time frames. All right. So, and I'm working on what my next seminar is going to be. So I'll be letting you guys know that as well. So y'all have a great night. And always remember, you have to free yourself to be yourself because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibrations. You'll see the alerts good. Yeah, make sure your alerts are on so that you get it anyway. Wait a minute, hold on. Before you go, what's the EENT you just referenced? I just referenced something. Oh, the event that I just referenced. So on October 31st through November 2nd, we're having the Free Thinkers Meetup here in San Antonio. And the only thing that you're gonna have to spend money on is the hotel, your transportation to get here, any food that you eat outside of the free breakfast and the free supper that they give at the hotel. There's a free supper between 5:30 and 7:30, and there's a free breakfast. And then like the Japanese tea garden, when we meet there, however you get there, you know, it's like a $15 Uber ride. 4 of y'all get in there, y'all can split it. That's the only place that's going to require transportation to get to that place. Every other place that we're meeting up is going to be within walking distance of the Drury Plaza, downtown San Antonio. But everything else, I'm not trying to have events where you got to pay for tickets and this and that and the third. So if you get here Friday early enough, we'll have a place to meet up as a initial meet and greet for when we first get, you know, just coming in, just, hey, how you doing, kind of thing. Right now, unless they have a private event scheduled around that time frame, it'll be Devil's River. My wife said that when you show up Friday, that you need to wear your costumes. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if my wife is wearing some kind of costume. She loves costumes. And since that'll be Halloween, I would not be surprised if she's wearing some costume. Wouldn't be surprised at all. I will not, but she might. There's no telling. She might be a mermaid. Ain't no telling what she might be. We can't come to your house, Coach. Hell no, you ain't coming to my house. No, you're not coming to my house. That's too far of an Uber ride. We live out in the suburbs. It's too far. It's too far. All right. So I appreciate you guys. And you know, is that a requirement? No, it's not a requirement. It's not a requirement. That's just my wife being her silly self. She loves costumes. And because it's Halloween, I wouldn't be surprised if she's dressed up some crazy way because she, you know, she a little special when it comes to Halloween or any kind of costume party. She loves costume parties. Uh, but y'all have a great night. And once again, you got to free yourself to be yourself because your greatness is non-negotiable. Send me some cigar money. I need some cigars. Later.